Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner, and this is the Boxing Day Best Bets episode. Going in, I guess the only real soccer league that's come back or will be coming back on Boxing Day is the Premier League. And what better sport or what better league to come on because they're actually broadcast here in the U.S. more so than pretty much any of the other leagues, unfortunately, at least on regular television. We're going to go through, I guess, the return back for a lot of these teams. Some have played already in the Carabao or the EFL Cup. That was this week. I'm fully caught up there and figured I could come back with an idea of where all these teams are looking ahead. So it's going to be a strictly English Premier League episode. Going to have best bets and an ultimate best bet end of show. Without further ado, all lines quoted on this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced juice is offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description below to fund your account. Use the promo code GW50. You'll receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. Also going to give a pregame.com promo code to save you some money on there if you're looking to find some picks maybe for this weekend. You got a lot of NFL tomorrow, recording this on Friday night without any idea about what lineups will look like besides what we've already seen, which I would think everyone is back and ready to go besides maybe the Argentines who are probably still partying in Buenos Aires right now. All right, so we have that's out there. Now it's time to pull up the numbers, and I'll start with Brentford and Tottenham. That's the opener, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time on Boxing Day, the 26th of December, in case anyone needed to figure that out. Brentford currently a half a goal underdog at home. The over-under is 2 3/4. So Brentford went into the break with a big win against Manchester City. Forgive me, it's been a month, or a month and a half even, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. They didn't play in the cup this week, but I'm sure we're playing a ton of games during the international break with the players that were still in their team. They have a very Danish side, but the Danes are also out very early, so maybe that won't matter so much. There was some rumors that Ivan Toney is suspended, which is a big hurdle for them if that's indeed the case. But yeah, it looks like he's got some betting problems. Hopefully not listening to Betting the Pitch, but then again, I can't blame him. And sorry to run through all this again, but don't usually do this after we're already into the show. But it's been a little while. I'm a little bit out of practice. If you're listening on YouTube, please hit subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, a like or a 5-star review would be awesome. Actually, I'm planning to read some later in the podcast. So, of course, I really appreciate everyone saying what they feel. Of course, don't make anything up unless you're, of course, wanting to make things up that sound nice. And I'll read the most recent review right before the best bets come end of show, just so you know that there will be plenty of, hopefully more of this, and I'll give you some shout outs, specifically if you want to leave a Twitter handle or something like that, that would be great too. Anywho, Ivan Toney not available, so that's a big problem. And unfortunately, that really affects and impacts the ability for Brentford to score goals. I think my dog is going nuts in the background. Welcome to being at my mom's house where there is an animal besides myself living within the roof. But so Brentford without a goal scoring angle is very scary. However, they were a team that was going to try to play really defensive football. Now, the English Premier League has seemed to play more offensive this season, maybe because they just dropped Burnley and they're not there to try to foul you for 95 minutes until the final whistle is blown. But Brentford are going to need to play defensively. However, they're actually going to be invited out a little bit by Tottenham here. And Tottenham, who went on the road to Nottingham Forest in the first half of the season and literally gave the ball to them the whole time and said, see what you can do with it, got a couple counterattacking goals. They, under Antonio Conte, that's the strategy. I don't think that's changing. It worked really well for him when he won the Scudetto in Serie A for Inter Milan. And he's not changing. So that's what we should expect. Now, Brentford don't have a lot of people to put the ball in the back of the net. And I imagine that they will be pretty wary, especially with so much time to prepare for this match. pretty wary of Tottenham on the counterattack. So I think this might be a match where I would like to look at the underdog, though only getting a half of a goal on Brentford at home seems like a decent number. A draw is a win, but without really a lot of avenues to goals. Ivan Toney was one of the good ones, but ultimately is not a huge threat, I don't think, to score in most matches, besides from the penalty spot where he's awesome. But Brentford don't have that. I don't really know how they're going to score. So I think I'm much more interested in that under 2 3/4 number. You only lose half of your stake if it does finish on 3 goals. But I've not really believed in Tottenham's defense, certainly, which doesn't help an underlean, but I haven't really believed in their offense, and I don't really like the strategy of when they're the stronger team with a much bigger salary base for them to be playing the way they do, conceding possession. I just don't think that's a really good strategy. So under 2 3/4, my interest on that Brentford opener. Now we go to a glut of games, all 10 a.m. Eastern time, and we've got a lot of matches coming up, mainly on Boxing Day, but plenty more to go. And I'll start with Southampton hosting Brighton. Southampton, a quarter goal underdog at home. Over under is 2.5 goals. Both played in the cup in the midweek. Southampton got very lucky that VAR did not exist in the round of 16, and basically survived and advanced because it didn't. Brighton, on the other hand, were unable to score, and they did keep a clean sheet, but that wasn't good enough. Went to penalties right away and lost in penalty shootout overtime, essentially. I think they had the ball on Solly March's foot, and he kicked it Harry Kane style into the stratosphere. And that probably means Brighton's going to be pretty disappointed coming into this matchup. Now, they didn't play their full starting 11. Roberto Sanchez was not there, not even in the team. And I would imagine that they'll be about as full strength as possible, but certainly not great to come in off a loss to a League One team, I believe. In Charlton, not great. Southampton, on the other hand, played a really bad team, Lincoln Red Imps, and fell behind, got an equalizer that was offside, and then scored a goal, but then blew a bunch of chances at the end to make it a lot more comfortable, but did also get very lucky that there was no VAR to call a clear handball, like arm above his head, in the box, ball hit him, clearly penalty every single second of the day, unless you don't have a VAR or you don't have competent referees, which I guess across those leagues you have no competent referees. Anyway, Southampton don't know how they're going to score goals. Unfortunately, they, even on breakaways, really struggle to put the ball in the net. I think that'll happen here. Roberto Sanchez is a good goalkeeper, much better than whatever the heck Lincoln has in their net. Not sure if he's semi-pro or actually professional. I think professional, but regardless. Brighton, on the other hand, I keep waiting for Roberto De Zerbi to start playing his game where they're going to score a ton of goals. I do believe that he is trending in that direction. That's a strategy that he's going to take, but it hasn't really shown up in these back and forth matches. At least it didn't in that matchup against Charlton, which might have been Charlton's whole strategy because they essentially were trying to go to penalty kicks from when the match kicked off. For this matchup, I don't like Southampton enough. I don't believe that Brighton score goals. And they haven't, even under Graham Potter, who left for Chelsea. Really, they played defense by possessing the ball and still were really a bad favorite, I thought, and were good to bet against as a favorite. Had a good start to the season, but I'm not really buying it, especially with the coaching change. I'm worried that De Zerbi, especially after another result that didn't go his way, that he's going to then just go guns blazing and just go all out attack, which he did in Serie A with Sassuolo. But that would also require Southampton to take advantage of them being out of position. And Southampton clearly struggle with that midweek. Maybe they get better about it. They practice it, or maybe they just get their head out of there, you know what. But I guess I'm much more interested in under 2.5 than I am in Southampton, just because I don't think Southampton can score. And I think a 1-0 Brighton victory is very possible here as a road favorite. It's not guaranteed, of course, and there's usually a second goal that might come in. But you're doubly losing if Brighton win 2-0, and you're still winning that under 2.5 wager. So, and these numbers do feel a little bit inflated as I went through the card earlier. So I wonder if there's been a lot more scoring in the Premier League this season, but I wonder if there's also a lot of, this is the only thing on TV on Boxing Day. There's gonna be a lot of action, especially public action flowing to over. Everton and Wolves, another game with two teams that have no offense to speak of. Everton have been playing better, I think, at least where they sit in the table is because they've played so defensively, surprising under Frank Lampard. And then Wolves have been, I think, our bottom of the table and were so bad for so long, and finally got a new manager in. And now Julian Lopetegui is coming in, formerly of Sevilla, lost his job, got sacked this season. Everything was a disaster there, partly because they were a bad team with high expectations, but he wasn't doing much to change that. Wolves, on the other hand, they've added a lot of attacking talent, but doesn't really seem to do much. They've tried, give them some credit, but they're ultimately a defensive team that is going to try. I mean, under Lopetegui, he was never, I guess with Sevilla, he was a ball possession, crosses in the box to steal wins type of guy. And then when Sevilla were better than their opponents, they would try to possess the ball and then find the little cracks in the middle and pass their way through. I don't see a lot on the Wolves roster that can do any of this, really. They do have some good players. Ruben Neves is an awesome midfielder and certainly has a deadly shot from outside the box, but that's not really a high expected goals type of attack. They have nothing really at striker to talk about. I mean, Raul Jimenez has not been the same since his skull fracture, which I probably wouldn't be the same either. But then also Diego Costa has been a joke since he's come back, got a red card, probably more than the goals he's scored, unless he had a penalty kick that I think I'm remembering now as I say that. I don't really know what Lopetegui is going to do besides try to make this team as defensive as possible to try to get a point on the road here. And I think that fits pretty well with what Everton want to do, which is they want to score goals, but they know that if they stretch too thin, then they're going to put themselves and their defense at risk. So I think this is a very conservative matchup. Lean to Wolves getting a quarter of a goal on the road with all the juice. But I think I'm more interested in that under 2.25, a much lower number, but I think that speaks to the inability for either of these teams to score. Love soccer because, especially for underdogs and for unders, there's no extra time or overtime on these single league matches. And so very good chance a 0-0 draw will not lose in overtime because there is none. And certainly lean to Wolves, but I think I like under 2.25 better. Next, we have Crystal Palace hosting Fulham. Crystal Palace currently a quarter goal favorite with all the juice, likely climbing to 1/2. Fulham on the other side are a quarter goal underdog. And over under is 2.5. So this is a little bit different from the underlean after underlean after underlean so far. Crystal Palace, really good home team with a huge backing from their home crowd. I would imagine all these stadiums are going to be filled with people, bums in chairs, bums in seats, bums on whatever bleachers, whatever they have at all their places. But unless there's some huge disagreement between the fans and the club leadership, I don't think that will even matter on Boxing Day. I think everyone will be in their chairs because there's nothing else to do in the world because everyone loves Santa. Crystal Palace, great home team, should have a huge crowd behind them. Fulham have played just guns blazing, going in all out offense. It's basically Roberto De Zerbi's dream is what Marco Costa, whatever his name is, anyway, the manager for Fulham has been doing. I would expect that there would be no change. Honestly, Marco Silva, there you go. Just doing it live, looking stuff up while I'm here. Oh my God, everything's going badly here. All right, we're going for a walk for a second. There we go, and now we're back. Okay, so Marco Silva, manager of Fulham, wants to play as attacking as he can, and that's what he's going to do. And might as well turn off all other things that I have attached to me to make sure that nothing goes off. If TVs will unpause, then I don't even know what to say about life in general. Okay, so Crystal Palace, really good home field. Don't have a great offense, but they'll have a lot of space and opportunity against Fulham, and I think that's a problem. So I don't know that I want anything to do with Fulham only getting a quarter on the road. It certainly looks like it's going to climb to a half before this kicks off, but I don't really want to take a team that plays insanely or in a way that I don't really agree with on the road against a team that plays really well at home. And I feel like the way Fulham want to play, 2-2 is a realistic result. So 2.5. I actually think I lean over rather than under on that one. Surprise, surprise, everyone who's been listening since the World Cup, I recognize. Leicester and Newcastle still in this window. Last game at the 10 a.m. on Monday. Leicester, a quarter goal underdog at home to Newcastle, who's been playing so well. Both these teams played in the Carabao Cup or EFL Cup midweek. Both were able to advance. Leicester quite easily, Newcastle not as easily, but 1-0, and didn't really look like they were getting threatened, though I guess Bournemouth had a couple chances late, and it was a Premier League side, so much more impressive than Leicester getting through the MK Dons. Currently, as I said, Leicester's a quarter goal underdog, and the over-under is 2.5. Leicester's a tough team to talk about because they started the year so poor. Their defense was so bad. They brought in Wout Faes from Stade de Reims in the Champagne region of France. He came in and has been awesome and really locked-tied a defense that was flopping all over the place. Newcastle's defense has been great. And they have a good run in to start after this long international break. And so they're going to be fighting to try to keep their Champions League spot. And here's a space for them to do really well. Now they're on the road, and that's going to be hard because Leicester does play a lot better at home. Their crowd is pretty good. I mean, they're mostly loud when they score goals, which obviously gets them there, and then they can celebrate. But I do feel like Leicester plays a lot better at home. I hear that annoying sound from like the cricket commercials or whatever that keeps playing in my head every time I think of them playing at home. But Newcastle are going to make it really hard for them to score. I think if anything, I'd lean under 2.5 here, which is almost even money at BetOnline. But I don't think that there's enough for me to back Leicester only getting a quarter, because I feel like Newcastle are very likely to keep a clean sheet here. The Newcastle offense is one that I don't really love, and certainly something I'd look intent maybe a little bit more closely to be against if I was getting a half of a goal, where a home draw for Leicester would win me a full bet. But I feel like this number is a little bit lower than I want it. And the over-under, I just feel like both teams can get on and score some goals here. I'm trying not to play too many unders unless I really like it. And I feel like this one is not, I'm not enough in like with that one. Aston Villa then hosts Liverpool as we get to the 12:30 window, and we still have one more left on Monday. Villa, a 3/4 goal underdog at home. Over under is 2 3/4. Now, Liverpool played midweek. They had Man City on the road, tough matchup, and didn't have all their best players. Started backup goalkeeper, et cetera, et cetera. But they played pretty well. I thought really competed with Man City. Good sign considering there's now a big gap between these two teams, certainly in the standings, but also I think in the talent level. Liverpool starting to look really old to me. Aston Villa, though, brought in Unai Emery, who is going to stall this game out, as I would expect him to, against all the big clubs. The biggest questions for me for Unai is when he plays the lower teams that he should be beating. But against the big teams, he's going to defend. He's going to defend well. I am interested in Aston Villa getting that 3/4 of a goal. I think a win is realistic. I'm not afraid of Liverpool as a road favorite of this magnitude at 3/4 of a goal. Having to win by 2 goals to take a full unit certainly makes Aston Villa something to worth looking at, in my humble opinion. At +1, I think Aston Villa would be on my card, but below that +1 number, I think I'm more interested in the under of 2 3/4, which is currently plus money and looks like it's climbing to 3. Aston Villa's, I think, biggest problem is that they can't really score goals. I don't expect that to change, or that Unai Emery will suddenly change that. I think that will still be a problem, which does make playing the side a little bit more complicated, because Liverpool look like a team that could score goals. Darwin Nunez has looked awesome. In the World Cup looked really good, and Uruguay got eliminated really early, so that's been good for him. But looks like he's playing at Salah, and that's a scary, scary front two. Whether they've got a bunch of injuries that Jurgen Klopp constantly talks about, how Bobby Firmino is not healthy, was supposed to start in the match against Man City, blah, blah, blah. It always happens. He's always complaining. I'm kind of sick of it, if you can't tell. But I feel like I'm still very interested in being against Liverpool. I do feel like an under 2 3/4 or under 3 is a bit of a play against the Liverpool offense. And the fact that they can't play as aggressively as they used to because they have to worry about that defense. I think Virgil van Dijk will be in, but he was not available for the cup match as he had just returned to training, from what I had understood. I like Aston Villa as a live home dog. Home crowd should be huge. So lean to them, and also to that under eventually 3, as it looked like it's getting there. Arsenal then host West Ham for the last match of Monday, Boxing Day. Currently, Arsenal a 1-goal favorite. Most of the juice on their side. Over under is 2 3/4. West Ham just don't really seem like the side that we've seen them from the last couple seasons, making runs in Europe. Arsenal off to an incredible start, but now have to replace Gabriel Jesus, who's out for months after being injured at the World Cup. Where do the Arsenal goals come from? I would think it'd probably be to Martinelli, to the Norwegian, who I can't think of, Odegaard, certainly Bukayo Saka as well. So they still have people that can score goals, but I still don't necessarily believe that they're going to come very easily. They still need that striker up front to score goals, and they don't have one now with Jesus out. West Ham basically built themselves from a relegation side to a team that was and has been competing in Europe by playing really good defense, counterattacking, or really just beating your brains in and set pieces because they're so big. That's going to be the same situation here, but that speed advantage for Arsenal, well, there is one because West Ham's more tall than they are fast. And I think that's going to be a problem because Arsenal don't really have the big bodies, as I just said, with Gabriel Jesus at like a 5'9" striker. He's not exactly beating you in the air for balls against 6-footers or 6'3" guys. So I think this is a little bit of a tougher matchup for West Ham, but I don't know that Arsenal's offense is good enough just yet for me to believe in them. West Ham, that +1 number is a really nice full goal of insurance. I do worry if they're trailing 1-0 or 2-1 that they'll be in trouble with a late goal, but I mean, that you can say that about every match. And I do think that +1 is a very, very nice amount of insurance for a team that hasn't been playing great, didn't get off to a very good start this season, but Arsenal had so many players at the World Cup, and I do think that's going to impact players a lot, certainly with starting lineups, which we'll see, but also just in terms of cohesion and how the teams are going to play, because I don't know that many of these players who went to Qatar, they come back, they've been playing a lot, they're in game shape, quote unquote, but they're not in game shape with their teammates. And I think that's going to be a problem. So I lean to that +1 on West Ham. I like the under 2 3/4. I think if I'm trying to decide which one I like better, it might be that I think if you're playing an underdog, especially on the road, you're likely expecting them to play well defensively. At least I am, the way my strategy works. So I guess I like under 2 3/4 more because I don't really love West Ham in a shootout here. I don't think they really will fare very well in that. But Arsenal certainly have more goals in them. I think under 2 3/4 is my lean. Now to Tuesday, we have Chelsea and Bournemouth. So I guess we have 3 matches left, and then we'll get into the best bets and ultimate best bet. Chelsea 1.5 goal favorites at home to Bournemouth. Chelsea's offense is just not something that we can trust. I don't believe in it. The change in manager from Thomas Tuchel to Graham Potter seemed like a great hire, but that hasn't gone very well. And then you had this huge long break. A lot of Chelsea players all over the place. And I don't really know Aubameyang. I mean, is he really trustworthy? I'm not so sure. Whereas Bournemouth played Newcastle really tough in the midweek. I played under in their match. They covered the spread. Barely. I mean, they won. They're +1.25 from what I recall. Lost 1-0. Good for the under, which was under 3. It never came even really any close, or not close at all. Bournemouth has been, I thought, was very competitive in that matchup. On the road at Newcastle, which is a big task, but here they have another one, only a few days to rest, which is going to be concerning. But luckily Bournemouth to London doesn't seem to be that far of a trip, and they get Chelsea, who really haven't been playing well. And where did the goals come from in Chelsea? Aubameyang, I guess, but like the rest of them, Pulisic is never really trustworthy. Mason Mount hasn't played well, especially not under Graham Potter. Reece James is basically one of their best goal scorers, and he sometimes plays as a right center back or right wing back. I don't know that I really believe in, maybe on the left side, I think Chilwell's on the other side. Anyway, I think the Chelsea defense has always been the strength. And so when you look at them trying to win, and they have to win by 2 goals to beat me, and a single goal victory is not good enough when we'll win a full unit my way, that makes me like Bournemouth quite a bit at 1.5, and also makes me like that under 2 3/4. Currently even money, so we might see a really important number to 3 when we can push. I just think Bournemouth are a really solid lineup. I thought they would change managers. They did not over the long break. And so they're going to play really defensive stalling football until they really need to turn things around and get more points. Going to Chelsea is a really tough place to go. I think at 3, I might like that number, that under 3 better than I like the 1.5 on Bournemouth. But I do like both, and I think both are correlated and probably come through with a 1-0 Chelsea victory. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Bournemouth go and steal a draw and escape at 1-1 or 0-0. The nightcap on Tuesday is Manchester United hosting Nottingham Forest. Currently, Manchester United a 1.5 goal favorite, and over under is 3, juiced to be under. Manchester United with a good performance against Burnley in midweek. Didn't really get challenged too hard, but looked like they deserved their victory. Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, like had a pretty tough, or excuse me, they had a very fortunate draw and ended up taking a lead on a penalty, scored a bunch of goals, especially a goal late. So everything looked very good. Both these teams advanced in the EFL Carabao Cup. Good for them. Woohoo, yahoo. Manchester United got to play some reserves and really brought in some much better talent, and will have some more talent available to them in this match. Nottingham Forest played pretty much the best they had from what I remember. It's going to be tough going to the Theater of Dreams and trying to wake everything up and go at it yet again. But I would imagine the confidence from a big win in the Carabao Cup was huge. I think Nottingham Forest under Steve Cooper have shown, once he realized that they needed to play more defensively, which seems like something that takes newly promoted clubs a while, even if they were already a defensive-minded club or manager in the first place. But they've been pretty solid. I think Manchester United have addition by subtraction, losing Ronaldo, but from my perspective, I still question Manchester United, how talented they are, or excuse me, I don't question how talented they are, but I question how it all works together. So I'm interested in Nottingham Forest getting that 1.5 goals. I like under 3. I don't know that Nottingham Forest will really contribute much offensively. I think they're going to go and try to stall out everything they can. So having to get 4 goals to beat me is very attractive, and I like the 1.5 as well. Last but not least, moving to Wednesday, we have Leeds hosting Manchester City, and this will not be an underlean for me. Jesse Marsch, as far as I know, still the manager of Leeds. Certainly a relaxed version of Marcelo Bielsa, but still plays like a psychopath. And I got to think that there's going to be a lot of goals scored in this matchup. Currently, Leeds are a 1 3/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice, and the over-under is 3.25, monstrous number. Man City with backups. I mean, what a job by Riyad Mahrez for one of the prettier goals that I've seen, at least since the play started 3 days ago. But Man City have plenty of goal scoring options. Holland played, should be available. I don't think Julian Alvarez will be there because he's probably still in Buenos Aires right now, having a really good time at 20 years old or however young he is. I just don't really like the lead strategy. They're going to be aggressive, counter pressing, and that's going to leave them. Man City are going to play with them like a cat with a mouse. And I think they're going to really cause some problems. Now, if Leeds can take a lead and start to build on that, certainly anything could happen. It is football. There's crazy things that happen for a match that might see 4 goals as an over here. But I think ultimately, I'm not in the business of trying to fade Manchester City. They are a team I only want to go against when I feel really good about it and love the strategy and think that what they're playing is an underrated side that can really challenge them. I think Leeds are going to challenge them athletically, physically, with how much they run, but they're also a lot thinner than Manchester City. And I just don't think this works very well. I expect this number to start climbing more towards 2 before it kicks off, that the Leeds home crowd is insane, immense, incredible, a lot of I words, but I also lean over 3.25. So not really that interesting to me, or not something that I should have on my list. So now that we've gone through the whole card, I've got a couple more things to read, keep everyone going. Thank you for listening, and thank you for everyone and all the support on pregame.com. Pretty much I'm putting out my picks overnight. If you want to get in there, use the promo code Grinch20. I'm not the Grinch, been called it before, but I am not. 20% off for all listeners of this European soccer podcast. It's good 7 days from the podcast release, so it's good until the 30th of December. Get you some picks if you don't want them this week. I mean, there's not a lot to bet on besides college football, so I think you probably should get in. But if you could use it all the way up till almost the end of this year, end of the year of our Lord 2022. And so that'll be, again, I'll say it again, Grinch20, 20% off for all purchases on the pregame.com website. You can look for my picks, which usually come out the night before. Also plenty of other great handicappers on that website, and you can learn along, follow along, find some stuff to win some money on, impress your friends, impress your family. Probably don't tell your significant other because they probably don't want to know you have a habit, but it is your choice. It is your life. And I guess I might as well read the most recent review. And this is from Voltage 309. I probably should know that area code. I'm usually pretty good with area codes, but I don't know them. Griffin is funny and has helped me make some money. All I can say is thank you. 5-star review. Appreciate that big time. I'll go the next one. The next time I record, which will probably be as we head into looking to card for next week, which is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to soccer coming back. And now it's time to give some Boxing Day best bets. So let's get right into it. Starting from the top, I'm interested in Brentford under 2 3/4. I just don't think they have a really good way to score, so that makes me less interested in the side. Southampton, Brighton under 2.5 is high on my list. I don't think either of these two teams are really trustworthy to score. They might play a little bit more aggressively, but I think Southampton usually plays a lot better at home, and it's not because they score 4 goals a match at home, to say the least. Everton, Wolves, don't know where offense comes from in this one. Don't really think there's a lot of desire to stretch out and try to score goals until that first one goes in. Then who knows what will happen, but under 2 1/4 looks good in that one. I just don't think Wolves can score. I think the Everton crowd will push them quite a bit. Crystal Palace and Fulham, I like nothing in this matchup. I guess I like over 2.5 more than anything. I just don't think Fulham are a side that I want to trust or back, and a really tough place to play with a strategy that I don't really enjoy. Leicester, a 1/4 goal underdog at home to Newcastle. I think I lean under 2.5, if anything, to this one. But I don't know that I feel strongly about it to recommend it. Aston Villa, I do like getting 3/4 of a goal at home to Liverpool. I would love it if that's +1, but I'm not sure it gets there by the time this kicks off. So I think I'll instead lean harder to under 2 3/4 or under 3 even. Might see some movement there. Arsenal, West Ham, I like West Ham +1. But I do worry that the matchup of big size center backs and central defensive midfielders, Declan Rice at 6 foot, 6'1", something like that, Thomas Soucek at 6'4", I just don't know that that's a really great matchup for Arsenal, who have beaten teams really badly. And certainly West Ham are not the sharpest tool out there. I guess lean to under 2 3/4 in that one. Next, we have Chelsea and Bournemouth on Tuesday. Lean to Bournemouth getting a goal and a half, and like under 2 3/4, but we'll probably wait for that under 3 to come out. Just don't really believe in Chelsea scoring a ton of goals. They certainly play a lot better at home, but I'm not sure I believe in that. Manchester United then hosting Nottingham Forest. Manchester United, a 1.5 goal favorite. I lean to Forest, and I lean to under 3 in that one, as I think Nottingham Forest will go in there and try to defend like crazy. And I just don't necessarily believe in Manchester United to score. And last but not least, Leeds, Manchester City. I lean over 3 1/4, if anything, but I don't really think that's on my list. So ones to think about: Tottenham under 2 3/4, Brighton under 2.5, Wolves under 2 1/4. Then we'll move to Aston Villa under 2 3/4. And if they get to 1, I'm a lot more interested. Bournemouth under 2 3/4. I would love that at 3. Nottingham Forest under 3. I'm gonna go for the ultimate best bet on this episode. I'm gonna go with Nottingham Forest under 3 goals on the road at Manchester United. I feel like I love that number, that there's a push on 3 available. I'm hoping there's a bunch more on this card that get to that lofty number of 3. I just don't see a lot of goals in the Theater of Dreams, especially not many coming from the road team. And I think their only real choice to I guess advance or win in this matchup and try to get 1 point, or maybe even somehow shock the world and grab 3, is to keep it tight and keep Manchester United from scoring. So that'll be 33 minutes on the Premier League. Get you in for hopefully some best bet winners for Boxing Day. I'm the real_G Warner. If you're listening on Twitter, please retweet, send my link out to friends if you want. If you're sick of staring at me, well, then you probably shouldn't go to YouTube. But if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe, leave some reviews. I'd love it. Comments, be watching those a little bit more closely as I try to incorporate those more into these episodes. If you're on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a review, give a 5-star review. It's really huge to get me up there. And I'll be reading more of the reviews that I get, 1 per episode, until I exhaust them or until that gets annoying. Thanks. Any feedback, of course, the real_G Warner on Twitter, and would love to talk or anything. We got a couple days till these matches kick off. So come at me with whatever you got. And I look forward to making a big run as we try to make some more money down the line. Have a very nice Christmas, happy Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating. If you're celebrating nothing, then happy few days off from work. We'll see everybody soon.